Showtime. Hi everyone, this is Comic Noob here. Today I'm going to be talking about Batman, The Killing Joke. Let's get started. Okay, so here I have The Killing Joke Deluxe Edition. This is a pretty skinny book. It really isn't that long. You could probably read it in one sitting. If I take off the dust jacket, you have very nice image. The art on this is absolutely fantastic. It's done by Brian Boland. He's known for doing the very iconic cover with the Joker. Not much on the back. We also have this, Batman Finest, The Killing Joke and Other Stories. This came out recently. I was very excited for this. I was tracking this for the last few months to buy it on the release day. This contains Batman the Killing Joke with the original coloring. Deluxe edition that I have here has recolored images. And it also has many other Batman stories that some of these were never really collected before, from like the late 80s, I believe, after Crisis on Infinite Earth. It has 10 Nights of the Beast. That's a pretty serious story. I haven't read it yet. Looking forward to that. It has Son of the Demon. If you like Ra's al Ghul, you're going to like that one. Also haven't read that. Looking forward to that. It has a lot of other Batman comics from around that time. So this is quite a nice collection. I wanted to mention it because it does have The Killing Joke with the original coloring. So it rounds out my collection, having both the original coloring and the new coloring. And I want to talk a bit about this story. This story, my first introduction to this story, I saw the Killing Joke movie that came out. I guess it's been a number of years already. It's the animated movie that was released in theaters. And if you've seen that movie, you probably know that only half of that movie is The Killing Joke and the other half is a backstory on Barbara Gordon, Batgirl. I enjoyed the movie. I think it's hit or miss for people. I liked it. And one thing that's special about this book, I've only recently got into reading comics, but somehow I got around to reading this one 3 times. After the first time, I thought it was a bit overrated, but then I began to, sort of think about the story in this book and its implications for Batman and some of the characters in the future, and how it ties into other Batman stories. And I realized that the author of this story, Alan Moore, very famous author, did a really nice job telling this story that would later become canonized as the official Batman event that had a really big impact on some of his characters. So what is The Killing Joke about? Maybe I'll bring this image here, as this is the more iconic image. DC Finest. The Killing Joke is Joker's experiment to see if one bad day can drive somebody insane. And I'll get into spoilers in a minute, but we're gonna see how that plays out in this story. This story also gives a possible origin to the Joker. Now, if you've been reading Batman, a lot of authors like to keep the Joker's origin a bit of a mystery. So not sure if this is meant to be taken literally or figuratively. That's another nice thing about this story. There's a lot of unanswered questions and ambiguity, so you can sort of fill that in for yourself and guess for yourself to see, what really might have happened at the end. The ending is very interesting. I will show it here in a bit. So I'll get into spoilers now. So this is your warning. So turn off the video now if you don't want to see spoilers. Also, this book, I'm going to try and avoid it in this video. I don't like showing graphic content. There is some mature content in this book, just to warn folks out there. So if you're sensitive to mature content, maybe skip to the end now or stop the video here. All right, let's begin. So I'm going to go through the whole story. I'm not going to hold anything back. It's a pretty short story. You get this nice panel work in the beginning with complete visual storytelling. And I don't think you have to give this away, but in the beginning, you have this nice dialogue with this figure here. It looks like the Joker. And eventually you realize the Joker escaped. And he's looking to procure this carnival circuit. I guess it's not a circus. This amusement park grounds, which hasn't really been kept up. And we'll see why he does that in a bit. And throughout this story, you get flashbacks to the Joker's past here. And this is what I was talking about before about a possible origin of the Joker. You see that he's like this sort of failed stand-up comedian. He has a wife, and he keeps flashing back to that. You also see Batman reminiscing about his previous encounters with the Joker. And here is a very critical thing. This is super spoiler here, so if you haven't read this story, definitely turn off. But a key event that happens in this story is that Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, is shot and paralyzed. And this is a permanent effect in the Bat family. She is no longer Batgirl after this. She now becomes Oracle, who's sort of Batman's intelligence. And Batgirl is later replaced by some others. Cassandra Cain comes to mind, for instance. But this is a major event here. And I don't know if this was meant to be taken as something that actually happens when Alan Moore wrote it, but this story was so impactful that they eventually made it part of Batman's core canon. And when we talk about one more day, or one bad day here, like what happens if somebody has a bad day, the Joker's running an experiment to see if he can drive somebody crazy with one bad day. Here's his target, Jim Gordon. He's trying to drive Jim Gordon crazy. And we'll see what happens there. So here we get some more flashbacks. And what's happening here is before the Joker becomes the Joker, he's a bit insecure. He wants to earn more money to, show that he's a man to his wife, and also to, support his upcoming baby. And he ends up getting involved with these mobsters, the Red Hood gang. You might have seen references to that in other Batman stories. And he's asked to help him. He's asked to sort of provide some intelligence and also accompany these mobsters at a chemical plant. So here Batman is talking with Barbara Gordon. She's a bit disturbed about what happened. Here the Joker is trying to sort of get to Jim Gordon. And I'm going to skip through some of these because I want to make sure I don't show anything too mature here. Here we have the Joker again running through the chemical plant. This is really before he becomes the Joker. And what's interesting there is this mobster is, I would say, deliberately drawn to look like the Joker. So this is from the Joker's point of view before he becomes the Joker. I don't remember if they give him a name here. Maybe they do. I honestly don't remember. But when the Joker first puts on this Red Hood, this sort of obscures his vision. And what he sees is this mobster, and this mobster sort of looks like the Joker. Interesting observation there. And what ends up happening is probably, many of you may already be familiar with this story. This became popularized with the 1989 Batman movie in a bit of a different way. But Batman shows up, he knocks the Joker into the chemicals, and that drives him crazy. And his inspiration behind this one bad day to drive somebody crazy experiment is really, I think, coming from this, because he really had one bad day and that drove him crazy. So Batman arrives on the scene, and I'm not going to show all of it, but in the end, Commissioner Gordon is not driven crazy. He insists that the Joker is taken in by the book. Those are the words that he uses, because he wants to do what's right, even though something very bad has been done to him. an expression of humility from Jim Gordon. So you see Batman coming to nab the Joker. They have a little bit of a tussle here. And at the very end, you see this, the Joker sort of laughing and Batman standing in front of him. And they're both sort of laughing here. And what's interesting is this ending is really kept ambiguous. So this is the end of the story. It's already over. It's not that long. You could probably read it in one sitting, the whole graphic novel. And we're left to wonder what happened. The laughing suddenly stopped, and you get these two panels here to really set in the end of the story. Did Batman kill the Joker? Did they just stop laughing? Did Batman take the Joker back to Arkham Asylum or Blackgate Penitentiary? We don't know. And I think originally I was a little bit disappointed with this ending, but I think this is one of the strengths actually of the story, because it makes you come back to the story to think about what might have happened here. Now, if you take this story as canon, you follow it up with the rest of the DC Batman continuity, of course the Joker comes back. So, nothing happened to him here if you assume that the rest of the DC continuity happened. But in Alan Moore's original story here, maybe he did intend for this to be the Joker's end. So I really like this. Originally I didn't, but it keeps me coming back to this story. And I think even before it, the whole story is very well written. Again, there is some mature content, but I don't think it's too crazy, especially compared to what's portrayed now. So that is Batman, The Killing Joke. I hope you enjoyed this. Take care.